folks. Nice pub in Britain. So today we're continuing our Yorkshire Dales loop by going to Gargrave, Ingleton, Hawes, Mooker, before ending up in our stopover tonight, which is the little pub at the Street Head Inn in Leyburn, apparently in the middle of nowhere. But who cares? We've got weather like this, we're just going to enjoy our little pootle around the Dales. So, check in later on. Our route today was going to take us to our first stop in Ingleton, where hopefully we'll grab a coffee, then swing by the famous Ribblehead Viaduct and take a look at that before heading up the B6255 to the little village of Hawes, which apparently is a very famous little village, very popular with bikers. And then we were going to head up past the Buttertubs Pass to the little village of Mooker, made famous by currently our favourite TV programme, which is our Yorkshire Farm.
We were really happy with our 2-night stay at the Sawley Arms. It's not the cheapest, but it probably was the nicest place we stayed on our trip, and it's a great place to base yourself, as you can see lots of the Dales from there. The room was lovely, it was spacious, and it was newly refurbished. Good food and great service, and the staff were really friendly. There was good COVID precautions in place without it feeling too restrictive, which is important for us. The weather was beautiful and outside seating facilities were really extensive, so we actually ate out every single meal.
The village of Ingleton has a history going back to the Iron Age and is also known as a land of caves and waterfalls. It's also been voted the second favourite village in the UK. Oh, by the way, apparently the first one is some village on the Isle of Wight. But anyway, right now, all we wanted was a quick coffee. The Ribblehead Viaduct is a 19th century Grade 2 listed structure. It's 400 metres in length, 32 metres in height and was opened in 1875. While they were building it, hundreds of railway builders, or navvies, lost their lives, to such an extent that the railway actually paid for an extension of the local graveyard. We were hoping to park fairly close to the viaduct, so maybe I could get the drone up, take a look, but didn't realise just how popular this place was. We eventually did get the drone up, but unfortunately I had a few technical issues with it, so the footage wasn't usable. So instead I had to make do with a still shot. The little market town of Hawes is one of England's highest at 850 feet above sea level. It was first recorded as a marketplace in 1307 and of course is home to the world famous Wensleydale cheese. The name Hawes means a pass between mountains, and it stands between the Buttertubs Pass and Fleet Moss. And as predicted, it was incredibly popular with local bikers, and on a hot day in August it's virtually impossible to find a place to stop. So instead of stopping for a coffee in Hawes, we decided to press on and explore some of the beautiful Yorkshire Dales roads surrounding Hawes. Unfortunately, we discovered that Sue's petrol was running a little bit low, so rather than getting stuck in the middle of the dale somewhere, we headed back to Hawes to fill it with petrol before heading on to Mooka. Buttertubs Pass is a very famous pass in England. In fact, it's rated by Jeremy Clarkson as England's only truly spectacular road. It's very popular with cyclists and was actually used in the Tour de France and known as the Col de Buttertubs. Yes, don't ask me, Tour de France in Yorkshire? What's all that about? The name Buttertubs comes from the limestone potholes formed by the rock face. Local legend says that the farmers would use them to store their butter during the summer en route to their local market. The little village of Mooka has been popularised by being featured quite heavily in Channel 5's award-winning programme, Our Yorkshire Farm. Well folks, here we are in Mooka, made famous by our favourite TV programme at the moment, which is of course Our Yorkshire Farm. this would have been a great place to stop and get the drone up in the air. Sadly, not to be. Dogged again with some technical issues with the quality of the video footage. After a second aborted drone attempt, it was time to call it a day and head for our final stop of the day, the Street Ed Inn, where I was hoping I could take some downtime and take a look at the drone and see if I could figure out what the problem was. Street head in the middle of nowhere, which is fine. What isn't fine, of course, is that we've had to hit the doorbell 3 times, nobody's around. Not just to go to find somebody to ring him up. So he'll be here in a couple of minutes.
Yeah. Maybe we're the only ones staying down.
Oh, they will, doesn't it? The oldest coaching inns in the Yorkshire Dales. I say you're a farmer, but you run the pub as well.
I know, I've been in this job 30 years. Wow. I've just been here 18 years on Thursday. I was here 18 years.
What, you've owned this place for 18 years?
Yeah, and I never thought it would lead to what it's got now. I never thought that whatever happened now would happen.
So what's happened? Oh, this you mean, the lockdown?
Yeah.
Look at this, you see now?
Everything is so much harder.
This is the new normal.
Absolute, unbelievably, you know, I mean, yeah, it's busy, fair enough, but it's harder work than normal because we're having to watch people coming in the door, we're having to say that we're having to clean the tables everywhere, we're having to clean the toilets, we're having to wash handles, we're having to, and taking names and dresses. And
have people cancelled staying as well?
No, not really, no. So I mean, obviously through lockdown we did, and a lot moved further in the year. So, you know, they moved into September, October, November, regulars that come regularly, you know, so yeah, there's that side of it. But it's building back up, but the locals have been the ones who were very reluctant to come out.
Really?
Yeah, because of like tourists from all over. They've been
I see, they're trying to catch it from tourists.
So you're in room 2?
2, good.
Lovely.
We got. This is the oldest room and the oldest coaching in the Dales. So it's a bit different to yesterday's. I think, well, double bed. As you can see, it's a bit dark, but then again it's an old building. With
bed's big and comfy.
So he says the bed's big and comfy. Yeah, it's not exactly a power shower, but it'll do for one night. However, great view across the hills. So now it was time to stretch your legs and for me to take a look at the drone and find out if it was working properly now.
Yesterday we stayed at the Street Head Inn, which is one of the oldest coaching inns in the Dales. And after our couple of lovely days in the Sawley Arms, it was a bit of a culture shock. It was very old and a little bit dark, but it was comfortable, in fairness, and it was spacious, so we had plenty of room to put all the biking stuff that we regularly deposit all over the place. So that was good. The food was simple, home-cooked food, good quality food, reasonable price, and the beer was good as well. So Bri was happy because the beer was good.
Excellent.
The beer was excellent. The cleaning was very, very good. In these times of COVID-19, we always look out for that, and the cleaning was very, very good. I think they'd probably overdone it with the air freshener, so we woke up with sore throats in the evening or in the middle of the night because of the air freshener. But the place was good and the people were great. The owner is a guy called Nigel, who is also a sheep farmer. Really nice guy. The chef's a lovely guy as well. He lives on site. But a really quaint home away from home experience. When we got there, it was locked and there was nobody there, even though you could check in any time after 1 o'clock. And one of the local guys from the local caravan park rang the owner and asked him to come and let us in, which was a bit surreal. But all in all, nice experience.
The next day we set off north to go and visit the Tannhill Inn, which is the highest pub in Britain, and then reverse the Buttertubs Pass, go down the 6255, revisit Ribblehead Viaduct, and then head south to our final stop in the Dales, which is the Woolly Sheep Inn in Skipton. The Tan Hill Inn, standing at 1,732 feet above sea level, is the highest pub in Britain, and apparently one of the loneliest. And it's been snowed in more than 50 times since 2005, on one occasion for 11 days. It has its own generator and its own snowmobiles, so that gives you some idea of how remote it is. It became famous in the 1980s when the double glazing firm Everest filmed one of its adverts there with Ted Moult and a feather. Man, you've got to be a bit old to remember that. And the band Scouting for Girls were stranded there with other guests in November after playing a Children in Need gig. They sort of take your life in your hands if you're going to stay at the Tan Hill Inn. Well, folks, highest pub in Britain at 1,732 feet. Very blustery. While we were riding the B6255, we came across a photographer from Shutter Speed Motorcycle Photography, so naturally we took advantage of his services. Meanwhile, back at the Wibblehead Viaduct again, time for some dronage. Sadly, still too busy and too far away. Anyway, enough of all these people. Time to go and find a coffee somewhere, far from the madding crowd. That must be Horton in Ribblesdale then. For a quick pit stop, cup of tea and a piece of cake on the way to Skipton. That's a little place I found. In the middle of nowhere. It's warming up a treat now. Watch one of our, which one was it? One of our trips?
Spain.
Oh, the Spain trip. Have you been to Spain? Have you you've done the same thing, the Picos? Fantastic. So where are you off to today?
We're just heading back actually, we're coming back from Kirby Stephen.
Have you just been out for the day?
Yeah.
Yeah, well enjoy the rest of your trip.
Thank you.
And so we arrived at our final destination of Skipton. I booked a town centre pub, and as with most town centre accommodation, parking is always problematical.
When you go right and right again.
Quite modern, bed's big enough. The bikes are securely locked away down there in the secure car park. I knew that Skipton had an old castle, and I'm a sucker for castles, so we were keen to check it out. The oldest medieval castle in England. It's the best preserved, 900 years old. Sadly, it's now 3:20. It shuts at 4 o'clock, so unfortunately we don't get to go and see it. But at least you get an idea what it's like. Skipton Castle is a Grade 1 listed medieval castle, built in 1090 by a Norman baron, and probably the best preserved of its kind in the country.
That's great. Are you restricting numbers?
Yes.
Right, okay.
So, so we can keep the social distancing to some...
So how many people do you allow with
25 every half hour.
Right.
Maybe next time. Now it's beer o'clock almost. So here we are at dinner at the Woolly Sheep Inn. Look at that. Award-winning bangers and mash. Steak and egg pie.
Can we have another Malbec and another Pinot Grigio, please? Thank you.
Yeah, I see. Set up for the night now.
Look at that pie.
Perfect. The Woolly Sheep Inn was a typical gastropub. Food was good selection of beers, pretty comfortable. Sadly, it was time to end our fantastic Yorkshire Dales trip and start to head home. Well, that's it folks. Our final pit stop to end our fantastic week riding around the Yorkshire Dales. And here we are at the glorious Charnock Richard Services, having a flat white from Starbucks. And it's cooking hot, 24-25 degrees. It's getting hotter as we go further south because we're heading right into the heat wave. It's been relatively cool but lovely up in the Dales, but now it's going to get hotter. But what a way to finish a great trip. But it's been a fantastic trip, loved it.
Fantastic weather, we're so lucky with the weather.
So great weather, brilliant roads, just Yorkshire Dales, absolutely brilliant. So until next time, stay safe. Take care.
Bye.